Selfish, that's what you are. Patricia's voice echoed through the dining room as she slammed her hand on the table, making the silverware rattle. My daughter is struggling to make ends meet, and here you are, sitting on a fortune like some dragon hoarding gold. I took another bite of my roast chicken, maintaining my composure despite my mother-in-law's outburst. My name is Olivia, and at 34, I was facing yet another family dinner turned interrogation about my inheritance. 3 months ago, my beloved Aunt Martha passed away, leaving me her entire estate. Martha had been more than an aunt. She was my mentor, my confidant, and the only person who truly understood me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. She raised me, supported my dreams, and taught me the value of hard work and independence. Patricia, I said calmly, setting down my fork, my inheritance is exactly that. Mine. Aunt Martha chose to leave it to me for reasons she made very clear in her will. My sister-in-law, Emma, Patricia's precious daughter, sniffled dramatically from across the table. It's just not fair. James and I can barely afford our apartment, and you're living in that big house all by yourself. James, my husband's brother, nodded in agreement. Think about family, Olivia. We're all supposed to help each other. I caught my husband Michael's eye. He gave me a subtle nod, squeezing my hand under the table. We discussed this moment extensively, knowing it would come eventually. Help each other, I repeated, my voice steady. Like when Emma borrowed my car last year and returned it with a dented fender, refusing to pay for repairs. Or when James asked for a small loan of $5,000 and ghosted us for 3 months. Patricia's face reddened. That's different. They were going through tough times. They're always going through tough times, I replied, and whose fault is that? Emma quit 3 jobs in the past year because they were beneath her. James spent his savings on a luxury car he couldn't afford. How dare you judge my children? Patricia spat. Just because your aunt spoiled you. My aunt taught me responsibility, I interrupted, standing up. Something you clearly failed to teach your kids. The room fell silent. Michael stood beside me, his presence supportive but letting me fight my own battle. Patricia looked like she might explode, her face turning an alarming shade of purple. You ungrateful little, she started, but I cut her off again. You want to know what I'm doing with my inheritance? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my photos. Take a look. I placed my phone on the table, sliding it toward them. The screen showed construction plans, blueprints, and photos of a building being renovated. What's this supposed to be? Emma asked, her nose wrinkling in confusion. This, I said, is the youth center I'm building in Aunt Martha's name. A place where kids who've lost their parents like I did can find support, education, and guidance. The kind of place that helped me become the selfish person you see today. Patricia scoffed, but I noticed her confidence wavering. You're lying. You're just saying this to make yourself look good. I smiled, pulling out a folder from my bag. The groundbreaking ceremony is next week. These are your invitations. Come see for yourselves what I'm doing with my hoarded fortune. Emma grabbed the invitation, her eyes widening as she read. This is in the paper. There's going to be press coverage. Of course, I replied. It's the largest youth center in the county. Aunt Martha's inheritance isn't just money, it's a legacy. And I'm honoring it the way she would have wanted. Patricia sat there, opening and closing her mouth like a fish out of water. Her perfect narrative of me as the selfish daughter-in-law was crumbling before her eyes. But, James stammered, but what about helping family? I looked him straight in the eye. I am helping family. I'm helping kids who need it most, just like I once did. And I'm teaching your children an important lesson about responsibility and giving back to the community. The silence that followed was deafening. Michael finally spoke up, his voice filled with pride. The center will also offer financial literacy classes for young adults. You're both welcome to attend. Emma's face flushed red, while James suddenly became very interested in his plate. Patricia sat there, fuming but speechless for the first time since I'd known her. As I gathered my things to leave, I turned back to them one last time. You know what the funny thing is? If you bothered to ask me about my plans instead of just demanding money, you might have learned something. Aunt Martha always said that true wealth isn't about how much you have, it's about what you do with it. Walking out of that dining room, I felt lighter than I had in months. Patricia's voice carried behind me, already spinning this to her advantage. Well, I always said we should do more charity work. But it didn't matter. They'd all see the truth soon enough. What they didn't know was that this was just the beginning of my plans. Aunt Martha had taught me well, and I was about to show them exactly what selfish looked like. The day of the groundbreaking ceremony arrived bright and clear. I stood at the podium, looking out over the gathered crowd. Local media, community leaders, and dozens of excited families filled the rows of chairs we'd set up on the construction site. In the back row, I spotted Patricia, Emma, and James, dressed in their Sunday best, clearly hoping to be noticed by the news cameras. Michael squeezed my shoulder supportively as I began my speech. When I was 12 years old, I lost my parents. I started, my voice clear and strong. I was scared, alone, and didn't know what the future held. But two things saved me, my Aunt Martha and the community center where she volunteered. Today, we're not just breaking ground on a building. We're laying the foundation for hope. As I spoke, I could see Patricia shifting uncomfortably in her seat. She'd arrived early, trying to tell reporters she was instrumental in developing this project. Unfortunately for her, the project director had quickly set the record straight. The Martha Sullivan Youth Center will offer after-school programs, counseling services, career guidance, and yes, I paused, looking directly at Emma and James, financial management courses for young adults starting their careers. The ceremony proceeded perfectly. The mayor spoke about community investment, local business leaders praised the initiative, and several teenagers from the existing youth program shared their stories. Throughout it all, I could see my in-laws growing increasingly agitated as they realized they couldn't claim any part of this success. After the formal ceremonies, during the reception, Emma cornered me by the refreshment table. "You must feel so proud of yourself," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Making us look bad in front of everyone." I poured myself some punch, maintaining my composure. "Actually, Emma, I do feel proud. But not for the reasons you think. Did you know this center will offer free childcare for single parents attending college classes?" She blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "Yes. The kind of support that might help someone finish their degree instead of dropping out 3 times. I watched as my words hit home. Emma had quit college repeatedly, always blaming circumstances rather than her choices. That's not fair," she stammered. "You know I had my reasons." "Everyone has reasons, Emma. Some people just choose to find solutions instead of excuses." James approached next, looking uncomfortable in his ill-fitting suit. "Hey Olivia, that part about financial counseling, is that really going to be free?" "Completely free," I confirmed, "including personal budget planning and debt management workshops. The first session starts next month if you're interested." He rubbed the back of his neck, glancing around to ensure no one could hear him. "Could I maybe get more information about that?" For the first time, I saw a glimmer of genuine interest in his eyes. "Of course, James. That's what family is for, right?" Patricia, however, wasn't done trying to salvage her reputation. I overheard her telling anyone who would listen about how she'd mentored me over the years, shaping me into the philanthropist I'd become. "Mrs. Sullivan was like a mother to Olivia," she told a reporter, "but I like to think I helped guide her too." That was the last straw. I walked over, smiling warmly for the camera. "Patricia, you're too modest. Why don't you tell them about your own charitable works?" The reporter turned to her eagerly. "Yes, Mrs. Harrison. What other community projects have you been involved in?" Patricia's face froze. "Well, I have always believed in. Actually," I interjected smoothly, "Patricia has just inspired me to announce our next initiative. We'll be starting a volunteer program for retirees who want to mentor our youth. Would you be interested in signing up? We could really use your guidance." The reporter's eyes lit up, but Patricia looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. I'll have to check my schedule." "No pressure," I said cheerfully. "We'll need volunteers year-round. Though, of course, we do require a background check and references from previous volunteer work." Patricia excused herself quickly after that, practically dragging Emma and James away with her. Michael found me later, grinning from ear to ear. "That was masterful," he said, wrapping an arm around my waist. "Though I think my mother might have an aneurysm." I leaned into him, watching the families mingling, the kids already excited about the programs we'd offered. "You know what, honey? For the first time since Aunt Martha passed, I feel like I'm truly honoring her memory." "She'd be proud of you," he said softly, "and not just because of the center. She'd be proud of how you handled everything with grace." I smiled, thinking of the next phase of our plans, the scholarship program, the job training initiatives, the mental health support services. Patricia might have called me selfish, but I was about to show them what real generosity looked like. As the sun set over the construction site, I couldn't help but feel grateful. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above and creating something meaningful. Aunt Martha had taught me that too. 6 months after the groundbreaking ceremony, the Martha Sullivan Youth Center was thriving. What started as a building project had blossomed into something far more significant than anyone, especially my in-laws, had expected. I sat in my office reviewing the latest program statistics when my assistant knocked on the door. "Mrs. Harrison is here to see you," she said, trying to hide a knowing smile. To my surprise, it wasn't Patricia standing in the doorway, but Emma. She looked different, subdued, wearing simple business attire instead of her usual flashy outfits. "Can we talk?" she asked, fidgeting with her purse strap. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Of course." Emma sat down, taking a deep breath. "I've been attending the financial management classes here," she confessed, under a different name. I didn't want anyone to know. This was unexpected. "And how's that going?" "It's eye-opening," she admitted. I never realized how much money I was wasting, how many opportunities I'd thrown away. The counselor helped me create a budget, and for the first time in my life, I'm actually sticking to it. I leaned back in my chair, studying my sister-in-law. The entitled attitude was gone, replaced by something that looked remarkably like humility. "James has been coming too," she continued. "He's working with the debt counselor to refinance his car loan. And we're both learning a lot." "I'm glad to hear that," I said sincerely. Emma's eyes welled up. "I owe you an apology, Olivia. When Mom was ranting about the inheritance, I joined in because it was easier than admitting my own failures. But watching what you've built here, how many people you're helping. I get it now. I understand what Aunt Martha saw in you." Before I could respond, my assistant appeared again. "Sorry to interrupt, but the school group is here for their tour." I stood up, and Emma did too, wiping her eyes. "Would you like to join us?" I offered. "See what else we're doing here." She nodded, following me through the bustling halls. We passed the computer lab where coding classes were in session, the counseling rooms where grief support groups met, and a classroom where young entrepreneurs were learning to write business plans. "We're adding a daycare center next month," I explained as we walked, "and expanding the scholarship program to include trade schools." "Mom doesn't know what to say about all this," Emma admitted. "She keeps trying to find something to criticize, but it's hard when the local papers keep running stories about the center's success." I smiled. "And how's that working out for her?" "She's actually volunteering now," Emma said with a small laugh. "Not here, of course, her pride won't allow that. But at the hospital, I think she's trying to prove she's just as charitable as you are." We stopped at the Career Resource Center, where James was meeting with a financial advisor. He waved awkwardly when he saw us, and I waved back. "You know," Emma said quietly, "I always thought inheritance was about money. But what Aunt Martha left you, it was more than that, wasn't it?" I nodded. She left me her values, her vision. The money was just a tool to bring that vision to life. As if on cue, a group of teenagers rushed past us, heading to their after-school program. Their laughter echoed through the halls, filling the space with exactly the kind of energy Aunt Martha would have loved. "I have a proposition for you," I said to Emma. "We're starting a mentorship program for young women interested in business. Would you be interested in sharing your story? Not just the success part, but the struggles too. Sometimes people learn more from hearing about mistakes than victories." Emma's eyes widened. "You trust me with that?" "Everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their story," I replied. "Aunt Martha taught me that." Later that evening, as Michael and I were leaving the center, we saw Patricia's car in the parking lot. She was sitting inside, watching the building, probably wrestling with her pride. "Should we invite her in?" Michael asked. I shook my head. "She'll come in when she's ready. Some lessons take time to learn." 3 days later, Patricia showed up at my office. No dramatic entrance, no demands, just a quiet request to tour the facility. As I showed her around, she remained uncharacteristically silent. Finally, in front of the wall displaying Aunt Martha's photo and the center's mission statement, she spoke. "You've done good here, Olivia. Better than any of us expected." It wasn't quite an apology, but from Patricia, it was revolutionary. "Thank you," I said simply. "Would you like to see the volunteer schedule?" She nodded, and I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's showing people a better way, opening doors they didn't know existed, and giving them the chance to change their own stories. Aunt Martha would have approved.